Everest! That yell was pure adrenaline because this trek, it pushed me to my absolute limit. From surprise yak stampedes to collapsing from altitude sickness, these are the 10 most insane moments I'll never forget. Let's count down the wildest highlights of my Everest journey, starting with the one that almost broke me. Yak attack, a close encounter. Yaks are majestic creatures until they're charging towards you. So number 10 comes from one of my favorite moments looking back at it, but also one of the most scary moments in the actual moment of living it, because that yak, when it turned and started charging, there was a couple seconds where I was really scared. And then once you realize you're out of danger, you're able to laugh about it. Very happy I got it on camera so that way I can relive the moment, especially with Bhupal, of us running for our lives as we get a little bit too close to this yak, and he just reminds us of what yak personal space really is. All right, number 9 is me trying to carry my porter's bag, which is my bag technically. And this was something that I've seen a lot of people try, and I definitely couldn't skip, especially when my guide Bhupal dared me to. But the way these porters carry the bags is so unusual, so they don't put anything on their shoulders. They put one strap around your forehead. So it takes all the weight off your shoulders, but it really strained my neck. But for them, it does make sense because it takes the load off your shoulders and really just puts it on your back, I guess. But as you can see in the video, I'm definitely playing along to be positive because he's filming me, but I'm actually in quite a bit of pain right away. So I only carry it for a few minutes, but it was definitely a fun memory and a fun picture, but it also gave me a lot more respect for not just my porter, but all porters, to see how much they carry and without complaining. And they do that all day, every day while hiking at high elevation. They are the true MVPs of the Everest Base Camp trek.
Yes. What's your feeling with the bags?
You know, it's not as bad as I thought, but I do feel a lot of weight is, you know, the head thing actually makes sense because it's off the shoulders.
Yeah.
This actually is a pretty good idea. Now you put that on. Let's get a picture together.
Yeah, together you done. Together your picture. This smile. Your chest. Like this, huh?
Number 8 comes in at the famous Hillary Bridge. So this was like crossing into the unknown. The bridge is iconic, definitely for a reason. Suspended hundreds of feet above a roaring river, draped in prayer flags and just swaying in the wind, the Hillary Bridge is one of those places that makes you feel like you're almost in a movie. So I stopped in the middle, looked down at the rushing water and felt just kind of a mix of fear and wonder. You know, crossing it meant I was officially on my way to Everest Base Camp. It was like the first real wow moment of the trek. And it has a lot of great memories because you obviously cross it twice. Once in the very beginning and then once at the very end. So the second time you cross it, you have this weird feeling of accomplishment, and you kind of remember crossing it. It feels like it was years ago when it was only like about a week and a half earlier. So it just has so much mixed emotions because it's at the very beginning and very end of the trek, and one of those, you know, very famous iconic spots too. So I try to take it in as long as I can, but usually there's always someone behind you. In my case, it was a horse, but it was such a memorable place to just, you know, embrace the feeling of I did it, or embrace the beginning feeling of, am I about to do that? All right, number 7, what I like to call the best lunch spot in the world. This was around day 4, and this isn't a famous spot, but just this tea house lunch that just has this perfect panoramic views of snow-covered peaks. And I swear that lunch never tasted better. Maybe it was the noodles, but I think it was probably the thin mountain air also, but it was also just a moment. Sitting there with my guide, just watching clouds swirl around those distant Himalayan summits and knowing we were deep, deep in the heart of the Himalayan mountains. And that spot wasn't famous, but it was perfect. I didn't want to leave. Also, for number 7 on that perfect lunch spot view, most people were going inside because it was a little chilly. But to me, toughing it out, having to wear gloves and eat lunch was so worth being able to just eat lunch at this beautiful view with the Himalayan mountains in the background. Just unforgettable. One last glimpse. You don't really prepare for how hard it is to say goodbye to Mount Everest. On the way down, there's a hidden viewpoint only a few of the most experienced guides know about. It's one last spot where you can see Mount Everest's peak. It's not marked, most trekkers walk right by it, but Bhupal took me off trail just a few minutes, and there it was. One final look at the mountain that had taken everything from me and given even more back. It was quiet, it was peaceful, it was a goodbye. Now, most people think the final spot to see Everest is this actual bathroom spot where there's actually a rare bathroom on the trail for Mount Everest. And it's definitely a pretty stinky, disgusting bathroom, but there's a little spot for you to like sit on a bench and see Mount Everest. But that's not really the last spot to see Mount Everest. You have to go off trail a little bit and there it is. So don't always just listen to the crowds. Ask your guides and find these true hidden spots. Coming in at number 5 is the world's most dangerous flight, landing in Lukla. So before I even took a single step on the trail, the adventure had already begun. The flight into Lukla, often called the most dangerous flight in the world, is no joke. You're flying between massive peaks on a tiny prop plane with a landing strip that looks more like a driveway. So as we drop out of the clouds and the runway appears, just tilted up like a ski slope almost. I held my breath, but the second those wheels touched down, I knew I was officially in the Himalayas. It was terrifying, exhilarating, and the perfect introduction to what was ahead. Number 4 comes in with my guide carrying my bag, a symbol of survival. This wasn't just about altitude sickness, it was about humility. I was completely wrecked. Headache, nausea, dizziness, diarrhea, vomiting, I couldn't even carry my own small day pack. Without hesitation, my guide Bhupal slung it across his chest on top of his own massive pack and said, "I carry you, you walk." He didn't say it out of pity, he meant it, because to him, my life was his responsibility. That moment just reminded me how lucky I was, not just to be on this trek, but to have someone in my corner who cared so deeply. It's one of the most emotional moments of the trip. Bhupal often said, "My life is your life," and he truly meant it. So, thank you, Bhupal. Number 3 comes in with our running finish, crossing the line with energy to spare. After 10 grueling days on the trail, the very end of the trek came faster than I expected, but I wasn't gonna just casually stroll across the finish line. With adrenaline kicking in and my body finally adjusting to the descent, I told Bhupal, let's go, let's run it in. We finished strong, we finished strong. We sprinted up that final little hill like we were in a race, laughing, breathing hard, and celebrating every single final step. I felt strong again, I felt accomplished, and most importantly, I felt proud. Finishing strong was symbolic. It proves I didn't just survive Everest Base Camp, I conquered it. And number 2 comes in with the sunset at Patthar. Everest in golden hour is just unbelievable. Just when I thought I couldn't be any more overwhelmed with the beauty of the Himalayan mountains, Patthar delivered one more jaw-dropping sunset, probably the most jaw-dropping sunset of my life. Now the climb up was brutal. Freezing wind and every step felt like my legs were made of lead. But then the sky exploded with color. I was on my hands and knees trying to catch my breath most of the time, but my guide Bhupal literally ran ahead with my camera, snapping shots of Everest as it turned gold, then pink, and then purple. And the Khumbu Glacier just sparkling below. It was silent, powerful, and absolutely unforgettable. So I actually did not make it all the way to the top of Patthar. I only made it about halfway up because I physically could not go any further. So I just sat down and set up my GoPro for a time lapse, but Bhupal took my phone and ran to the top of the Patthar to get even better pictures and then ran back. Truly MVP, but definitely probably shouldn't have gone on that sunset hike, especially knowing how bad my altitude sickness would be that night. But I think that's why it's also one of my favorite moments, because it was one of the most beautiful and most painful sunsets of my life, and I paid for it. So, or a better way to put it, I earned that sunset. And my very top favorite moment of my Everest Base Camp trek is Everest Base Camp Rock, the summit of dreams. Reaching the Everest Base Camp Rock is the moment everything builds towards. It's all the altitude, the pain, the endless steps, sleepless nights, and freezing mornings. It all just leads to this moment. The moment I saw that rock with the faded paint surrounded by colorful prayer flags and other trekkers taking in celebratory photos, my heart dropped. It was just, this was it. The dream I've had for years, the destination written on maps, the point that separates casual hikers from true adventurers. The Khumbu icefall looming in the background, Everest's peak hiding just beyond, and the sheer joy of standing where mountaineering legends begin their summit pushes. It was surreal. Okay, if you're still here, first off, you're awesome. Second, I want to know which Everest moment blew your mind the most. Drop it in the comments, and if this inspired you even just a little bit, hit subscribe, because I've got even more wild stories coming from Everest to everywhere. This is just the beginning. Watch the full Everest Base Camp Trek playlist, and don't forget, keep traveling far.